I was going to call this the 8-minute workout, Bonham workout. But it's not going to be 8 minutes. And it's not really a workout. But if you want to sort of tone up on your Bonham feel, again, to me it's all about a feel. Bonham played a certain way that a lot of groove drummers did, but he kind of had it like totally niche cornered, like, you know what I'm saying? So, if you want to get your Bonham things up to snuff, you can kind of look at sort of like fills and then sort of his grooves. And if you want to sort of, let's start with grooves, shall we? So if you kind of want to get sort of the feel that Bonham had, start with sort of like a slow 12/8, like. Certain grooves Bonham did really well. He did a lot of shit really well, but if you sort of think of the T for One, Since I've Been Loving You, I Can't Quit You Baby, you know, sort of like the... and obscure, but the point I'm trying to make is that in every sort of really good groove drumming, God love groove drumming. He's a great groove drummer. But you have there's a certain feel that's always there. And the best way I can describe it is that it doesn't rush. See, my biggest thing is I love doing these Bonham videos and stuff. I first started out doing them like, hey, saw these name guys or people making these videos. Bonham was doing stuff. I'm like, he ain't doing that. So I threw what I thought he was doing out there. Apparently people seem to like it, which is great for everybody, including me. Gets me up off the sofa doing something. So, but they all have great groove drummers, well, great drummers, great pocket drummers, and John Bonham was one. They had the ability to play a little behind the beat. I want to say on. Some people have a different sort of notion. Some people will say playing on the beat is rushing, and other people say ahead of the beat is what other people say is on the beat. Bonham played consistently, at least with certain limbs, behind the beat. Like in my opinion, definitely his left hand. So sort of like a it'd be like. You hear how the snare sort of, when everybody claps, right? The best way to tell if people typically play ahead or behind the beat is if you have a whole room of people clapping. Like We Will Rock You. I've said this in 2 other videos. But right? 90% of the time, or at least within 1 or 2 standard deviations or something like that, people will usually clap a little ahead when everybody else does, and a little behind when everybody else does. So instead of having like a drum machine, like, even there's little flams, right? If I had 10 million people were playing at the exact same time, I'd be like, it sounded like a stick snipping, cracking. So, but what happens is, listen to We Will Rock You, or, yeah, We Will Rock You, or all these other songs where you have people clapping, it's boom. Ahead, behind, ahead, behind, right? Here's ahead, and here's behind, right? There's your bell curve. If it's the feet, right? It's the hands. You know what I'm saying? All right, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's actually true. Anyway, Bonham played behind. His foot kind of played on, to me. I know it sounds crazy, but I think his left hand played a little behind. But that is a great quality for a drummer to have, and I think often they have it naturally. It's sort of, I'd say with 83% confidence, it's instilled in somebody when they're born. You know, usually people that are like a little more laid back, like, hey, the place is on fire. Alrighty then, they kind of get upright. Those people I think are more likely to play behind the beat. We'll call them type B people. Type A people, such as myself, I'm as type A as you get. Stuart Copeland, when you hear him play, I mean, he's really on top or ahead of the beat. That's my, as far as playing Bonham-y stuff, in my mind, I mean, and really playing that groove well, to me, I consider it sort of like, I won't say a death sentence, but I wish I had a more natural ability to play behind the beat. To be in that tail end, right there, right? My friend Ryan, you know who you are, Ryan, naturally plays behind the beat. God bless him. But I wish I could. So, I mean, I guess I can kind of fake it sometimes. But anyway. So, anyway, what honestly helps is if you play like a 12/8 shuffle, but deliberately take your time. It's almost like that, honest to God, it's almost like that Bernard Purdy video where he's like, aha, aha, aha. You know how he plays? Purdy does that too. All these great drummers do. That's why they're great drummers. And I'm here languishing in my basement. Because they have the ability to not just have great chops and play good groove, but they can kind of control where the time is felt. That's a skill to develop, people. Anyway, so the quick bottom thing. Play a nice groove, take your time, act like you're made out of molasses. So if you work on the groove, try to play a classic. It's sort of a drum fill thing too. So you'll play that shuffle or that 12/8. Right? You're playing the shuffle, but then Bonham did a thing where, and this is really going somewhere. Trust me, I know it seems very meandering, which it normally is, but it's the best way I can explain it. The best way I can explain it. All right, so check it out. I'm sorry, I'm not poking fun at Mr. Purdy. It's kind of, why should I say something like that? Anyway, so, Bonham did something like this. Hear that? That is sort of gives you sort of a feel, honestly, into sort of the basic germination style of Bonham's playing. Like it's funky, but in sort of a slightly clumsy way. Sorry, my allergies are slaying me, but not in a clumsy way like somebody who's a klutz, but sort of in a way where like some entity who, once you kind of get the momentum going, it kind of moves at its own thing. Like a locomotive. Like a train, right? Train's whipping down the tracks. You can't stand in front and be like, oh, boys, what time is it? You know, it's not like that. Bonham, and I, everybody knows this, but you know when you listen to some of the songs like, you know, when the bass drum comes in, or anything in 61.5% of Zeppelin stuff, when Bonham's drums come in after the music starts, he drags, but it doesn't sound like it. It's, God, what is, yeah, I mean, you notice it a little in Since I've Been Loving You. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, slightly, you know, but you really notice it in, God, what is that? It's like not an outtake, but it is like a bootleggy sort of jam they used to do. And the drum, you know what it is? I don't know if it's something else on BBC sessions, but there's somewhere where Bonham comes in, and what it essentially dictates is sort of like, all right, listen, everybody in the room, stick it all up your asses, because when I start playing, the song actually starts. Okay, God, what is the song that does that? Some people right now are probably out there like, I know what it is. It is, God, it is as fat ass Bonham groove as you can frickin' get. Anyway, we'll try to remember that while I do something else. Anyway, so listen to this. Do you hear that? I mean, you do, but... kind of feeling all this 1280 shuffly kind of stuff. Everything he sort of played really did kind of swing. Ah, I know the song. Bam, bam, ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da, bam, bam, ba-da-da-da. Right? I mean, that, when the drums come in that recording. Let's calm down a little. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it's like, here I come, I'm coming, and it just sounds great, right? It's like it's a very inert, it doesn't, it moves, it's solid, but it slows down slowly, and then it speeds up slowly. It's like got just its own momentum. So, if you ever really want to just try and practice just working on the feel a little, just play a 12-8. And there's another thing too, and I said this in the bottom snare tuning video I did. Something that is very important, honest to God, about getting bottom snare sound is you tune it that way. Again, I think it's a minor third, always the snare side head higher, or a fourth. Ba ba ba, there's a third. Ba 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 ba, ba ba, ba 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 ba, right? But what happens is when you use a rim shot, instead of it makes all the difference in the world. It really does. Anyway, so then to concentrate, I get comments, people are like, well, you can't really copy bottom stuff, so why even try? It's like, well, kind of the point is again, the way where I sit and a lot of other drummers do, and even musicians, it's like a style and a way of playing. You're not, I don't want to learn every one of Bottom's fills completely memorized. It would take a long time, and even if you do it, the kind of like, what's the point? Don't get me wrong, there's some grandpappy fills that I like to learn for every note. But I mean, I'm so impressed with just the way he sort of felt, I should say delivered the time. And just the kind of almost simplistically ultra freaking clever fills he came up with that aren't really rocket science, but like, who the hell else would think that? You know what I mean? So, but this is interesting, because Bonham did this a lot, especially in the early days. It's like a 16th feel well, it's like an even a 4/4 feel, a 16th note in a shuffle or a slow blues. 1 and 2 and or 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. Right? Bonham did that a lot, and where you really notice it is in a lot of live stuff, but you notice it da 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 da. Right here. Ba da 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 da. As the song goes on, in that little part, you hear that ba ba da 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 da. After that part. That was a very, Bonham did that a lot. You know where else you hear it too a lot? If you're a huge fan of Zeppelin, like we all are, No Quarter, 1973, the song remains the same. Ba, ba da da, ba da da, ba da 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 da. Bonham did that everywhere. Okay? Gonna get me a cold pop. Bonham did that everywhere. Everywhere. Okay? Sometimes he go. Now the funny thing is, even though he led his triplets, well, if you're doing them around the drums, the bottom triplet, at least the one that goes around the drums, we'll say. That one. sometimes even mixed it up. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. That's a great workout to do. Alternate doing right, left, right. So right, left, bass drum, right, left, bass drum, or left, right, bass drum, left, right, okay? Okay, that's a great, and it's a great thing to do anyway, not just for Bonham, but the way Bonham incorporated is it would, everything else would be loud or have dynamics. And then suddenly there'd be this real lower, well, volume, but dynamic. And on those big ringy drums, in the context of everything, it sounded great. And that motif is everywhere. You know, in the song remains this thing, which I think is. He sticks it different ways. You know the part I'm talking about. Watch the coolest part in the world video I have where I go into length about that, because there's different things he could be doing. But even that. In fact, if you look back in the Danish TV, you can see where that sort of comes from. That's a great thing to do. I mean, all the great, musicians go back and they see, well, what did my hero... I mean, everyone had heroes, right? One of my heroes and yours, and even a big one, is Bonham, right? But you go back, sure, I listen to a lot of Bonham stuff. Like, oh, I'd like to cop that, I'd like to cop that. That Copeland, I'd like to cop that. That Phil Collins, I'd like to cop that. What musician doesn't do that? You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, if you listen to that, it is something that, well, let me just think back to in the early days, I'm trying to keep this all on track, because my brain is awash with hyperactivity. In the Lemon song, I forget if the Philly does or if he inverts it. But you hear Bonham do that, especially in the old days, everywhere. Slower tempos usually. Okay. Okay, you just practice doing it, but it gives you great control of like a 16th feel anyway. But that is, again, another sort of rudimentary thing Bonham did in his stuff. Just like Ian Pace. Ian Pace played all kinds. He was Mr. Paradiddle. He loved throwing that and all that stuff. Bonham did too. He did paradiddles like in Moby Dick. If you look at my other videos, the big thing is this: singles, buzzes, doubles, and paradiddles. Okay, especially doubles and paradiddles, including paradiddle diddles. It was Bonham, his bread and butter, right? So if you do, well, let's keep it on the groove, and so this. Works. The reason why I kind of did a drum fill sort of in with the groove is because that really works in there. So anyway, back to, of course, groove drummers. When you listen to like Bernard Purdy or Jeff Porcaro, and well, I say that because of the Rosanna thing. And I'll tell you, man, that's a. God, that's a. I want to work on. But, God, listen, Bernard Purdy and those guys get that feel going. That's just like a busier, groovier version of Fool in the Rain, right? I mean, that's what it is. It takes a hell of a lot of skill to do that. But as far as it goes with Bonham, so if you kind of nail down, if you want to, I think, practice that kind of behind the beat feel, play a 12/8. regular triplet around the drums. Or so, I mean, if you want to start with the bass drum. It doesn't matter. Well, it kind of matters. Maybe you can say if you start with your left hand or your right. Look at my triplet video, because there's a few of them. But you can work around it if you lead with your right naturally, which most people do. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, it's maybe a little more awkward, but whatever. All right. So practice your triplets. Remember the corners I showed you. Do a shuffle. So if you're going to go left, right foot, like a shuffle, then, sorry, and then, when you tie those all together, there'll always be a weak link. Focus on that. You can do it the other way too. Instead of left, right, you can do the other way. Okay, lead with your right. I don't do it as well. Okay, and there's more. There's more. Okay, so do that. Okay, this is sort of like the 7-minute abs, chipmunks on a branch, twirling around kind of thing from that great movie that I forgot the name of. So you'll have practice the groove. Okay, practice that guy. Practice your triplets. Right? Just practice those guys, but do them slow, but do it consistently. But then here's the other thing. You practice your Fool in the Rain shuffle. But I would say that the crux of it is to practice, if you can, if you don't naturally play behind the beat, I think like most people do, is if you tend to rush, practice with the metronome. But the key is just do it for a long period of time. But you almost got to kind of get in the head of somebody to really play that groove. You almost got to get in sort of that. You got to like play. You have to be really relaxed. You can't have like, I couldn't have like 2 Coca-Colas and 5 cups of Starbucks and sit down and expect to play Bonham really, really well, or at least as well as I can, because I'm going to be all over the joint, right? Bonham was as cool as a cucumber. You know, a lot of these guys, these guys that have such fat grooves, they're as laid back as you get, So, if you, again, I guess what I'm saying is you can kind of get into the mindset, if you play a slow 12/8, just do that for a long time. Which brings us to the other triplet. Remember, triplets are huge. Practice that loop. But you'll find that if you practice that 12/8, it all seems to sort of fall in place. If you sort of really take your time and try to relax, and keep in mind those. It's sort of like a cortisone shot of Bonham into your cerebral cortex. So instead of a cortisone, it'd be bonzatone. So you do that. when you find your way playing regular more like you sort of swing that sort of 1280 sort of swing thing to 4/4. So and then when that happens, even those little sort of those roughs into the bass drum, you can keep them sort of open or closed. That is very helpful, especially in 4/4ville. And then you'll come out and you'll realize too, like in the like with any drummer, people will go through a phase of a cool fill or something. Bonham went through the whole. And I think, as a quick aside, I think he always does it on the same crash. At least on the recording. Live, it looks like he's like. Crash to crash, but on the recording it sounds like it's heavily on one crash. But those are almost like things. I mean, that's like. And what that is again is back in 12/8ville. Stick it around. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? Just at a different tempo. It's that same, like. That's what it is. It's like the same. There's always sort of the same motif sort of running through. But again, sort of the thing that's sort of hard to grasp is to consistently sort of play behind the beat. Now, you don't have to do that. I mean, my thing is, in my own style, like I'll rip off some of those licks, except that I don't play as far. I play like on the beat. I do my best to play, because sometimes I personally really just don't like playing behind the. I mean, it fits great in Zeppelin-y stuff, but if you can't do it consistently, and you don't have a bunch of musicians around you that play to you well, if you play that way, it kind of defeats the purpose a little. So I play on the beat, and I typically always play with musicians that play on the beat, and then you have a more cohesive thing. Anyway, so if you're going to do like the 7-minute bonzo workout, start with your 12/8 to get in the mood. You can have, you know, if you want to have, Since I've Been Loving You going through your head, or T for One, or I'm Gonna Crawl, which is always a good one. Now, what is he doing there? Oh yeah, he does the. Oh, that's cool. He throws one of those in there later, but it's nice. Anyway, but again, that whole. Or your standard. And then, of course, there's the quad, if you call it that, which is. just sort of stick on those four kind of things. The triplet, or this, or this. You'll sort of get like the core feel for the rest of the bottom stuff. And then you sort of take the... and then you go into that kind of stuff. But, again, I just thought it might be good. I thought I'd make another video just because I'm sort of hanging out today on this holiday. And sort of say, well, if you're sort of sitting around, you want sort of like a quick 10-minute, like, bottom sort of specified workout, do what I just told you. If you're in the Chicago area, and even if you're not, there is a, I guess I sort of cranked this video out last minute too, because there's a benefit. I was in a band called Leave, and then Joe V, my friend Mike Murphy was in it. He was killed in an accident about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. Anyway, there's a benefit. It's the Michael J. Murphy Music Scholarship Fund, and there's a website which is the murphsgiftofmusic.org. So Murphs, MURPHSGIFTOFMUSIC. If you can donate any money, that'd be great. Pays for instruments and lessons for kids here in the Chicago area. I don't know, maybe it'll go nationwide. But if you could do that, that'd be terrific. And I hope this is somewhat helpful for you. But I have a couple other videos I need to make. A couple other tunes. And then I'm going to very soon set the drums up in a big wooden room, maybe even go into a studio and play, so I can sort of A-B and say, all right, guys, this is what it sounds like in my basement with a shitey microphone. But Bonham would be somewhere like this, in a more live room, the drums a little more open, with great condenser microphones, with the room sound. That's my plan, so that's coming down the pipeline. But again, Murph's Gift of Music, if you can, murphsgiftofmusic.org. Thank you all.